I am Tamila Baybuganova. Maiden name, Ryazova. I was born in 1940 in Simferopol. My parents were from Yalta, Ryazov Mehmet Yuzinovich, Ryazova Avibi Yuzinovna. They lived in Yalta in the beginning, then my dad, he was always working as a manager, and he was transferred from Yalta to Simferopol as a director of a large restaurant. Now it is the Central Department Store. There was Passage, a big restaurant. He worked there as a director of the restaurant both during the war and after the war. And since he worked during the war, he was charged and jailed for 10 years. He served time for a political article from the Bell to the Bell. Then he came back. In Uzbekistan, we lived in Samarkand, in the city of Samarkand. First, when we were deported, we got to Kazakhstan, Almaty city, to some village. I don't remember, I was little, I don't remember. We lived there for 3 years, probably. And in 1948, I had a uncle, Ryazov server, he was a prosecutor of Crimea. They lived in Samarkand, and he sent us a visa and took us to Samarkand. And in Samarkand we lived with all his sisters and relatives.
And how many people were in your family at the time of deportation?
At the time of deportation, there were 3 of us, my brother, the oldest, my sister was born in 1938, and I was the youngest. And when we got to Samarkand, in those years it was very hard to live. There was no bread, no water, no clothes, nothing. I went to the 1st grade, then in Samarkand, I had only galoshes. I went to school in these galoshes. There wasn't even any bread to eat. Then there was a card system, there were queues. My poor mother was standing in a queue. 100 grams of bread were given out then. And the bread was so delicious at the time, we did not got enough to eat. And that's how I am in these. And the winter was very harsh, so severe, that the frosts were up to 35 to 40 degrees at that time. And so I went to school in these galoshes. Zilal Kyzy severe. The locals treated us very badly at first when we were moved to Uzbekistan. Because they were informed that we were traitors. They somehow tried to humiliate us, insult us. And then, when we lived there for a while, they learned that we are a hardworking, honest, fair people. And then they began to treat us in a completely different way. And that's when the order came out that you can go to Crimea under Gorbachev, then they did not even want to let us go. They called us to the district committee and the city executive committee, and they called us everywhere. They said, "You have a good job, you are in a good position. Why are you leaving? You have your own house, you have your own car. There's no need to leave," they told us. But we did not look at anything and decided to go to our homeland. I was called. I worked in the hospital. The head doctor came, OBHSS for some reason came to punish me. "We heard that you are a good worker, everyone respects you. Why did you?" I read the information at these meetings. All meetings were almost held at our house. And I say, what have I done wrong? I did not do anything wrong. I just want to go to my homeland, that's all. And one day they called me to the prosecutor's office from work. Without a subpoena, they just called me to come to the prosecutor's office. I went there, and I saw that after 5 to 10 minutes, my husband also came to the prosecutor's office. He was also summoned. And he was sick. He had a heart attack, suffered a stroke. And they asked him, "Why are you doing this? Here is a criminal provision. We can punish you." And then he got nervous, pulled out nitroglycerin, and took it in his mouth. And I say, "Why are you doing this? If something will happen to him now, you will be responsible. He is a sick man. Leave him alone." And so they let us go later. We, I said, are not criminals, nor any. Our family is good and ordinary. Everyone knows us here. So, I say, you shouldn't be doing all this. Don't do such things. We are honest, hard-working people. We do nothing wrong. We want to go to our homeland, and that's it. Then they didn't call us again. I was told, "Why do you read information?" I say, "Why? I do not do anything wrong. I read information. It's just that I have a ringing, loud voice, and they decided to give me this information so that I could read it out loud."
Did the composition of your family change during the deportation?
Not at the time of deportation. There were only 3 of us, and Mom was the 4th. Dad was imprisoned.
And in what year did you come back, and who exactly? And where? Here to Crimea.
Yes, to Crimea. We came back in 1990. We were, well, my family was all there. I have 2 daughters and my son, Narvin. We returned right here to Crimea. We settled in Pyatakatki, Krasnogvardysky district. My husband came before our arrival, looking for a house. He wanted to buy a house in Simferopol, but they didn't sell it to us in Simferopol at that time. And we bought a house in this resettlement Pyatakatki. And we lived there for 5 years. And then my husband came here. I applied to the village council and wrote an application for the land plot. And this land plot was given to us later. The visa come to get a plot. We arrived. We weren't here when the plots were distributed. My husband got seriously ill again. Again, he had a heart attack, a second stroke. And the plots were distributed at the bottom. The one who managed took it. They gave us one up here. They gave it to my husband.
What is Crimea like in your childhood memories?
Well, I don't remember. I was very small. I told you, I was nearly 4 years old then. I just remember that there was a war. There was a bombing. We hid under the bed. We were afraid. I was born in Simferopol in the first maternity hospital. This maternity hospital still exists.
What did you dream about when you were young?
As a child, I dreamed of living in my homeland. I've been dreaming all my life.
Do you remember any proverbs or, perhaps, songs from the time of the deportation? Can you perform something?
No, I do not remember. I do not know.
Okay, and the last question then. What did Crimea mean to you then and means now?
Well, at that time I had no idea what Crimea was like. I don't remember what it was like. And when I came, of course, I liked it very much, and I am still glad to live in my homeland.